everyone.
Hello.
Welcome on in. Feel free to turn on your video and wave and say hi. It's good to see so many familiar faces on the screen. Hi, Ron.
Hi.
And Adam. Evan, hi. Good to see you.
Hi.
It's really nice. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. This is, I think, the third event in our Artist Toolkit Series, which we just started in February and is bringing a lot of resources for artists. Tonight we have Laura, Moya, and Audra Osborne here from Photolucida in Portland. So we're really excited to hear them speak about how to prepare for portfolio reviews and also critical mass. So you guys are in for a real treat tonight. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping rules. So we will be recording tonight. So feel free to keep your video on or turn it off, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then we also will keep you guys on mute for the majority of this conversation, but feel free to unmute yourself at the end if you'd like to ask any questions in person of Audra and Laura. So before we dive into the presentation, I'd like to start off with a land acknowledgement to recognize the original inhabitants of the land that many of us call home. We're called San Francisco Camerawork, and what is now San Francisco is on the stolen land of the Ohlone and Ramaytush people, to whom we owe a collective debt. We thank the indigenous people of the Bay Area for stewarding this land throughout the generations. We've all benefited from being settlers on this land, and I am incredibly grateful. As we get started tonight, please let us know where you're joining us from. You can include the present name of the place in the chat, as well as the names of the original inhabitants. And I'll also drop in a link where you can look that up. So now I'll hand things over to Erica Gentry, who is the SF Camerawork Programming Chair, and also an internationally exhibited interdisciplinary artist working within photography. And she's also the full-time faculty member and department chair of photography at the City College of San Francisco. So welcome, Erica.
Hey, thanks everybody. I'm no longer the department chair, but it's not important, but I just want to acknowledge that my colleague is now the department chair. Thanks everybody for joining us at San Francisco Camerawork, our new Artist Toolkit Series. Tonight's presentation is from Laura Moya and Audra Osborne of Photolucida up in my hometown of Portland, Oregon. Go Ducks. And they will talk to us tonight about preparing professional portfolio reviews and about what they do at Photolucida, because they are more than just photo reviews. In fact, they are a nonprofit arts organization based in Portland, Oregon, and their mission is to provide platforms that connect all of us, international photography communities, like we have here tonight. They host both the biennial Portfolio Reviews Festival in Portland, which is fabulous if you've never been before, and an online critical mass competition, very prestigious. Laura Moya is the director of Photolucida, where she organizes their portfolio reviews event, also Portland Photo Month, and supports Photolucida's critical mass programming. She's been a jury for critical mass, the Blue Sky Gallery Northwest Doors exhibition opportunity in Portland, as well as many other places. And she enjoys writing blurbs and introductions for photo books. Christina's going to post a link to the full bio, or I will in a moment, because both of these women have done many other things than what I'm able to fit in tonight's introduction. Audra is a multidisciplinary artist and arts administrator, also based in Portland. And since 2017, she's been the programming manager of Photolucida, and she organizes their critical mass programming. She manages, and part of that is managing their 200 plus jurors. So thank you tonight, Laura and Audra, for joining us. And without further ado, we hand the mic to you. Laura is just launching her presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and post the link where you can read more about Photolucida. And Laura, you're on.
Okay, can everybody see this?
Looks great.
Okay.
Apologies for the blue text on the black and white. I tried a couple different things. This is a quote. This is a quote by me. I was writing this out. This is actually on our website, and I just thought I would put it up there. It's kind of a concise look at what this event is, I think. I've been director at Photolucida for 16 years. It's hard to believe that or even say those words. Photolucida has been around for about 20 years. We've never had more than 2 staff people. Audra and I do a lot. We do a lot of programming. We manage a lot. I really wish I could see everyone and be like, how many people out there have been to our reviews? And then you would raise your hand and I could kind of know who I'm talking to. I see 89 people out there. So I'm just really curious about the artists that are tuning in, whether you've been to reviews, whether you want to go to reviews. What I'm hoping to do tonight is to give you a little background on the reviews world in general. The reviews world has grown tremendously over the last, I would say, 5 to 8 years. When I first started working at Photolucida, there was pretty much 3 reviews events. There was Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Photo Fest, and Photolucida. So there were only 3. So over the last 10, 12 years, we just have so many others. And then we have all the international reviews, which are kind of a whole other topic. So I'm hoping to kind of go over what's out there. There's so many options out there, and you really need to kind of figure out, if you haven't gone, what your first step might be, because they're all very different. So I hope to give an overview of the reviews world, and then I'll talk about Photolucida specifically. And whoops. And then hopefully there'll be time for questions as well. I think the way we came up with it, if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat area, but it might be that we're going to cover that. So I guess if we don't answer your question, be patient and we'll either cover it or then we'll get back to it later. So I guess the big question is, why attend a portfolio review? Just a side note, I don't know if anyone follows conversations sometimes in Flack Photo, but there have been a couple, it's always, people bring up portfolio reviews, people bring up competitions, and then everyone's jumping in with opinions and facts and what they know. There's been a couple interesting ones on portfolio reviews on Flack Photo in the last couple days that I've been following. And there've been, some questions, and I'm like, tune into the talk and you'll learn all about it. So I hope to bring some transparency and information to the talk tonight, and the people can just stop guessing and kind of learn more. So anyway, why attend a portfolio review? Probably the primary reason is you have a new project, you have work, you want to get it out in the world, and you want to get some feedback on it. Another reason is potential opportunities. A lot of people, when they're at the point where they're ready, they go and they meet with gallerists, publishers, editors, museum curators, and they hope to have opportunities come from meetings. Generally, it's relationship building. When you go to a review and you meet with someone, it is the case where sometimes people are like, your work is so fabulous. Would you like a show next spring? But generally speaking, it's just a really important step to meet the people. And, they know who you are. You have a really good conversation with them. And then you feel more comfortable down the line contacting them or having a conversation with them in an elevator or whatever. So it's just relationship building, both with reviewers, but also your peers, the other people that are attending this event. Again, self-promotion, you want to kind of show maybe you're at the point that you have skin in the game and you know, you have been working on this project, you want to get it out there, you want feedback, you want people to see it and know about it. Same thing, just share your work. It's really cool at the reviews. Like the off times, there's a lot of public spaces and all the photographers are just like sitting there opening their portfolios. Oh, can I see your work? Oh, can I see your work? And they're just like sharing their work. And that's a very validating thing, I think, when you spend a lot of time and energy putting together a body of work and then you're like, hey, I'm gonna show it. So here are just some photos from Photolucida. These are some images. We have 2 spaces. We're in the Benson Hotel, which is in downtown Portland, and it's a super, super, super cool space. It's a historic hotel that's been there since the early 1900s. And what's super cool about it is there's 2 ballrooms. So we get to have a main reviewing room where the actual appointment reviews happen. And then 1 floor below, we have another ballroom, which is like this grand ballroom with chandeliers. And that is where our rovers are. That's where our lunchtime chats are. And that's where we have some additional programming. And that's like an informal meeting space for people. So these are pictures of the upstairs ballroom. The bottom picture is just a picture of people from a photo book fair we did. I think it's Daylight Magazine and or Daylight Publishing and some artists that had books published by them. Excuse me 1 minute, I'm gonna drink some water. I probably haven't talked this much in like 2 months. Okay, so here are some reviews organizations that exist. Photolucida is every other spring in Portland, and we operate opposite of Photo Fest in Houston, so we alternate springs. So both of us are biennial, so that we happen once every 2 years. Center in Santa Fe happens in the fall, usually October. Center's Review in Santa Fe. Medium Festival of Photography happens every fall in San Diego. Palm Springs Photo Festival, obviously in Palm Springs, happens in April. Filter Photo Festival happens in the fall in Chicago. Atlanta Celebrates Photography happens in June this year. I think sometimes they're in October. For some reason, they're in June this year. Photo Alliance happens in March in San Francisco. Photo NOLA happens in New Orleans, usually beginning of December. And Month of Photography happens in Denver in March. So everything really has a different flavor. Some reviews are vetted. Photolucida is vetted. That means, well, I'll get to that later. Anyway, some reviews are vetted, some are juried, some are first come, first served, some are 2-day, some are 4-day, some are annual, some are biennial. Some have reviewers that have a focus on local people, some on national reviewers, and some lean international. Some are known for feedback, others are known for actual opportunities. So I'm going to go back and I don't know, you just have to do the research. Like a lot of times when you're starting out, I'll suggest to someone, start with a 2-day review. That's not too stressful. A 4-day review is a really big commitment. If you're just starting out, maybe a 2-day review is better. A lot of people just like to go to these different locations. It's like, who wouldn't want to go to New Orleans or Santa Fe? Or you also have to look at kind of the programming that goes along with the reviews. Like sometimes they're very heavy on extracurricular programming, sometimes not so much. A really good resource list is LensScratch has a page with all the portfolio reviews listed. It tells you what month they're in. I believe they tell you how long it is, and I think maybe what the registration fee is. But LensScratch does a good a good job in keeping that up to date. There are so many international reviews. Photolucida is part of a group called the Festival of Light, which is a consortium of international photo festivals. And it's just to say most major festivals in other countries have their version of a review session. You just have to kind of do research. Whoops, what did I just do? I clicked on the link accidentally, hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, so I will just give you some background on Photolucida, and I'll give you some math just to kind of give you the scope of how we're organized. It's kind of some big numbers. So basically 160 photographers register for Photolucida, and over the course of 4 days, each person has an average of 18 reviews. So one day you might have 4 reviews, one day you might have 3 reviews, one day you might have 5 reviews, but generally speaking, you have 4 days, and our programming works hard to try to just give you 4 reviews a day. We have 60 reviewers. I would say off the top of my head, we probably have 3 or 4 Portland area reviewers. We probably have 5 or 6 international reviewers. And then the rest are national that we fly in from different areas of the United States. Probably the most international reviews event is PhotoFest. They have a pretty big budget and they have a pretty big focus on bringing in international reviewers, which is really nice. Once we run all our programming with all our appointments, it shakes out to be 2,880 20-minute appointments over the course of 4 days. So that's a lot. Photolucida, I'm not sure if any other reviews have this, but we're super lucky because we have the extra ballroom downstairs. It's very spacious. And so we have this whole system set up where we have 25 roving reviewers, not all at once. They're scheduled over the 4 days from the Portland area who can come in and they talk to people. We have like an informal schedule set up so you can see who's in the room at the time and you just sign your name and then you show them your portfolio and get feedback. And so that's super cool. It's like a whole other layer. Like if you're done with your reviews upstairs, you can go downstairs and see who's in the roving room and try to sign up for some extra reviews. Also off the top of my head, let's see, we have about 35 volunteers. We really, really appreciate our volunteers. So that's some of the math on Photolucida as an event. It always comes up like, well, how much does it cost to attend? What does this really mean? So I wanted to kind of spend some time on, cost is always a concern for people. And I will say right now, reviews are expensive to attend and reviews are expensive to produce. So basically, for the longest time, if you look at all the reviews and you're like, okay, here's the registration fee, here's the number of reviews I get. If you take the registration fee, so for Photolucida last time, it was $1,200. You get an average of 18 appointments. So you can say that works out to $66 for each meeting that you have. So that's pretty expensive for 20 minutes if you look at it that way. So after I've been doing this for a few years, I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the way it happens at all because I'm doing the financials and I'm doing the budgets. I think what you really have to do if you're looking at it this way is look at all the extras that come with your experience when you're at that specific review. I will tell you right now, to produce Photolucida as an event it takes us 8 months. So that's 2 people working for 8 months to get everything ready for this event. So you have all the costs associated with paying the people to produce the event for 8 months before it even happens. Photolucida has a lot of extra programming that our participants participate in. So we have a pretty grand venue. We have the extra ballroom. We have the portfolio walk, which is at the Portland Art Museum, and it's in this big, beautiful, there seem to be a lot of ballrooms in Portland. It's in this big, beautiful kind of Grecian ballroom. So that's pretty nice. One of our evening events is usually a photo book fair. So that's something that you can go to and be part of. That's really, really popular. In the past, we've had a lecture series. We've had Alex Soth, Todd Heido, Mona Kuhn. So you get free tickets to that. You know, that's an expense too. You know, so we have a great closing party where we have beer and wine and real food. And so that's an expense. So you really kind of have to say, I'm paying this money, and it's not just like for meeting the reviewers. You're really kind of paying for your whole experience. So I don't know if that's helpful, but a lot of people are like, do the math on who's the most expensive or who's the best deal. But really you have to look at all the extras that kind of come with that registration fee. So we try to be super helpful with helping photographers afford it. We absolutely have a payment plan. If over the 8 months between registration and when it happens, you need to make payments, we have a payment plan. We really, really encourage people to check with their regional arts councils. Most states have them, if not all. What you want to be looking at is professional development grants. So basically, this is artist support to further your career. So the organization in Portland is called RAC, Regional Arts and Council. I don't know, it's called RAC. So they give professional. So if you're a photographer in Portland, you're like, I'm going to Photolucida, can I get a grant? Pretty much everyone in Portland who attends Photolucida gets it subsidized by RAC. So we encourage people from other states to look into that, or getting professional development grants. For some reason, Canada is very, very generous when it comes to subsidizing their artists. And a lot of times when people come to Photolucida from Canada, they're like, we got our whole trip paid for. So we work really hard to try to get discounted rooms at the Benson, which happens as a given, but we've also really hit the pavement and worked with 4 or 5 other hotels in the Portland area to extend discounts to people who are coming to Photolucida. We work hard. We have like a Facebook page that people can say, hey, who wants to share a room, you know, to work with helping cut lodging costs down. So we're very aware it costs a lot of money. It is expensive, but you know, hopefully over 8 months you can figure out how to budget it, and try to do some fundraising for yourself as well. So here are some more photos just from some of our events. Here's just a picture of Mona Kuhn, who was one of our lecturers a few years ago. And then, oh, here's some pictures of the Portland Art Museum ballroom, our portfolio walk. So actually it usually gets a lot more crowded. It's kind of, this is open to the public, and we have the 160 photographers break out into 3 groups. So they're staggered 1 hour each. And so people have time to put their work out for an hour, but then they also have time to see everyone else's work. And this is where like the reviewers can just like do the walkthroughs, and technically you would be able to see everyone's work in one night if you wanted to. This is a picture of the ballroom downstairs. It's called the Crystal Ballroom. So this is the informal meeting place. So you can kind of see people just hang out and show each other work and have their informal reviews. We have our lunchtime chats happen every lunch. It's informal. You can bring your lunch in and eat it. And usually it's photographers. The photographer in the upper right-hand corner, let's see, that's Corey Arnold, who lives part of the time in Portland and part of the time in Alaska. If you don't know his work, you should look it up. It's like super great. So he gave a lunchtime chat, and then sometimes there'll be book signings. And then the lower right-hand picture is examples of leave behinds, which we go over in depth. So leave behinds are what you leave for your reviewers. You can also put it out. We have a leave behind table where people can kind of just come in and get everyone's postcards if you want. Some other things. So yeah, the last two Photolucidas, we figured we're getting some pretty awesome reviewers that have publishing companies coming here to review. Why don't we have a little photo book fair with all their books? So it's super cool. It's been in Blue Sky Gallery. So these are some of the publishers that have come to review. Ain't Bad, Candela Books, Dark Springs Press, Daylight Books, Fall Line Press, Fraction, Caraverlog, Chris Graves, 112, Princeton Architectural Press, Radius Books, and Zatara Press. So basically they just ship some books to themselves, and we set up Blue Sky and we have a photo book fair. I will be honest and say, if there's anyone out there who attended Photolucida last time, it got really, really crowded. And so it's in our mind, if we do this again, to have a bigger venue, but people love it. It's so fun. It's like artists come to do signings and everyone's trading books, and that's a really neat evening event. And then on the right-hand side are just some talks and lectures that have happened in the past simultaneously. Irvin Johnson, who actually was a Critical Mass Solo Show Award winner, had his show up at Blue Sky during Photolucida and had a talk. The bottom is Susan Soyberg at Charles Froelich Gallery, had a talk. So Portland Photo Month also happens in April. And so we, in the past, have worked with a lot of galleries in the Pearl District, which is kind of the arts district where most of the galleries are. They'll show photography for the month of April. And in the past, we've had, we call it the Pearl District Walk, where people just go from gallery to gallery and the artists are there, and it's in the evening and it's fun. And, they'll just, do little events along with Photolucida. Some more photos. You might recognize some faces. This is the Benson's lobby here. Upper right-hand picture is myself, Audra, and Kelly Pennington, who's the volunteer coordinator. And that's kind of like our control desk outside the reviewing room. So that's where all our paperwork and schedules are. And then we kind of facilitate people going in and out of the ballroom for their reviews. Then the bottom picture is just a reviewer talking with the photographer at our closing party. So before we go into preparation, let me just check my notes. I thought I had some notes. You know what? I had a lot of notes, and this is kind of an interesting part. I somehow skipped a, that is weird. I somehow skipped a, here, okay. So weird, maybe I deleted it by accident. A couple things I wanted to go over with is, oh, actually it comes later. I'm really sorry. Okay, so now we're going to talk about preparation, how to prepare for portfolio reviews. We're going to have the in-person version, and we're going to have the current online version, and they're very, very similar. I've given more weight to in-person reviews because that's what I'm most familiar with, and that's just a lot more complicated than the online version, but it's kind of the same. So basically, this is just what's guiding you into this process. Have a strong series of work you are introducing. Sequence your best images to connect with your elevator speech. Your elevator speech is basically sharing what the body of work is about and why you are doing it. Kind of a verbal artist project statement. Most people have 15 to 25 images to share, printed anywhere from 11 by 17 to 16 by 24. Most reviewers operate well with clamshell portfolio boxes, and this makes print transportation easy. Some people have matted prints, others don't. Check on the review's event specifics, such as the table size you're working with. Most are 3 feet by 6 feet. Whether or not they allow for oversized prints. Some people have smaller secondary series that they pull out if time allows. Showing work on a laptop screen can be awkward, and most reviewers prefer not to view work this way, unless it's some kind of supporting series or something you need to show them online. Some gallerists ask to see an exhibition quality print. If you have any images of installation shots of work in previous shows, that is great to share. All right, what are your goals? Ask yourself this, what are your goals for the portfolio reviews? Be clear with yourself and others as to why you were there to begin with and what you hope to achieve. Portfolio reviews events are definitely investments of time and money. How can you totally feel prepared, and how can you make the best use of your time? Once you are clear on your objectives, you are ready to do your research. So, before the event, usually a month or two, organizations send PDFs or post reviewer bios online, and you can start doing your research. So read the bio, check out the websites on who might make the most sense for you to meet with based on the goals for your work and the type of work the reviewer is interested in seeing. What we do at Photolucida, we also have a line or two if the reviewer wants to state work that they don't want to see, which can be helpful. While your primary research should be on the reviewers with whom you definitely want to meet with, be sure to have a knowledge base of others as well. It could be you present your work a little bit differently depending on who you are meeting with. Just a note too, like sometimes we'll get into the programming later and preferences, but you might end up with someone on your list that you didn't choose and you're like, how did this happen? It's like, just go with it. Sometimes it'll work out and you're like, that's the best review I've had. I was totally not expecting that. And then sometimes it's not a terrific fit, but you can still, gain some, tangibly good things from your conversation. So, so preference lists are key to successful portfolio reviews. You really want to get matches that make sense for your work. So basically, a few weeks before Photolucida, after you've done all your research, you have a week to go online. And we have 60 reviewers, and basically you have a week to kind of figure out what your preference is. And we ask that you rate it all the way from 1 to 60. So after you figured it all out at the end of the week, our programming runs everything and starts assigning people's schedules. Okay, what you should also be doing before you come to the reviews is producing leave behinds. So a simple promotional piece serves to remind the reviewers of your work as well as contact information. So use an image on your leave behind from your portfolio so that the reviewer can have a better recollection of your work and who you are. These serve as takeaways during the portfolio walk. You have those out on your table as well with your work. So if someone's interested in your work, they can just take a takeaway. And then they're just good like calling cards to trade with your peers too. One thing I've heard reviewers say, it's like, you know, you're excited to meet with someone and you're like, here's 2 of my books. And then, you know, the reviewer at the end of 4 days ends up with, you know, 8 books, and they, you know, they either have to carry it home in their suitcases or send it to themselves, but they always request, please, if you're interested in us having a book, please send it to us. And anyway, just a little tip. So make a plan. I mean, really think about it. Think about what will make a great first impression. Practice your elevator speech while flipping through your portfolio. Time things if necessary. Will you be moving through your portfolio talking about it, or would you prefer the reviewer to do it at his or her own pace? Plan to speak clearly and concisely on your work, and make sure that your presentation takes less time than your full session, so that there will be time left for the reviewer to provide feedback. And I've heard photographers do this, like in their hotel room at night, you know, they're like, it's like running lines, you know, let's practice this together so it goes smoothly. Okay, so during the review session, always think about just timing. Don't be late to appointments. That's another topic, like what happens if you don't show up to your appointment, and always leave on time. I think the most difficult thing for the volunteers in the reviewing room, I'll just say it right now, we run our reviewing room like the military. It's just like clockwork. We're strict. We're like, things fall apart really quickly if people aren't leaving their tables on time, or it's kind of like the domino effect. So we run it really tightly. And it's really interesting, like years ago when I started reviewing at European events, they are so less, everyone kind of wanders in and wanders out. They get a coffee, or they don't show up in the morning on time because they were out at the disco the previous night. And I was like the uptight American, and I'm like, how can, I don't know. But I will just say from experience, and this is how we train our volunteers, is like, people get into the conversations and they don't want to leave on time, and then the next person's standing over them saying, it's my turn. And then the reviewers are supposed to get 5 minutes between appointments just to take a break, and then often that doesn't happen if things aren't moving quickly. So so we have people saying 5-minute warning and time's up. And on the 4th day, which is Sunday, everyone is kind of tired and sloppy, and things are a little harder to, you know, keep moving. So anyway, tangent on don't be late, leave on time. Okay, think about specific questions you would like to ask the reviewer. Make mention of something personal or professional to ask them. Remark on an exhibition they curated, a book they published, an article they wrote, to show that you've done your research and you care about their professional interests. Let the reviewer know specifically what you think they can help you with. What do you hope to gain from them personally? Some photographers record their 20-minute session. I think taking notes is hard because it's distracting you from the conversation. I've seen people, if you're a good note taker, it might work for you, but often things happen so quickly, people record their sessions with the permission of the reviewer, and then they can listen to it later. So some photographers record the sessions. If you would like to do this, ask the reviewer first if it's okay, and just tell them it's going to be for my use only. Obviously, don't necessarily share it or post it or whatever. At the end of the session, all reviewers should have a card that they share with you. You know, when you leave your leave behind, you can ask for their card. Most of them have it like in the corner of the table, and it's just kind of like an automatic exchange. Never put the reviewer on the spot asking about potential opportunities like, oh, it was nice to meet you. Do you, is an exhibition in the works for me? I know that certainly people get offers of like immediate exhibitions or immediate publication, but don't have that be an expectation. It'll work itself out. You can come up with your own system to organize your schedule and your meetings. Some photographers produce a 3-ring binder system where you can put reviewer bios of people you're meeting with. You can leave space for notes post-review. It's good to have a hard copy of other visual reminders, checklists, whatever makes the process more efficient for you. I remember seeing people, we suggest this, so people wear badges. Everyone has to wear a badge, and people will put their schedule for the day like on a little piece of paper on the inside of the badge, and then if things get hectic or something, or people kind of lose track of time, you can just flip your badge over and see who your next appointment is with. So to keep yourself from being overwhelmed, there's all sorts of ways you can come up with things that make it easier for you. Okay, this was the screen I was searching for before. Okay, so within Photolucida's context, and again, all reviews events are different and deal with these differently. So at Photolucida, there is always room for more reviews if often someone just doesn't, not often, rarely, unfortunately, they just don't show up for a review. They're usually engaged in a conversation downstairs. Sometimes on Sunday, people leave early. And sometimes someone cancels last minute. And so we have their whole schedule to kind of give away their reviews. So the process at Photolucida is we have an area outside the ballroom where there's like 5 or 6 chairs, and you can sit there and wait. And say someone's missing at an appointment, the first thing we do is we run out and we're like, Bill Smith, are you here? And then they're not. And then we come and we say to the people sitting in the chairs, there's an appointment with, Sue Jones, who would like to see her. And then someone says, I already saw her. And someone says, she's not relevant for my work. And then there's 3 people that are like, I would love to see her. So then usually we do like rock, paper, scissors, or we draw a thing from a hat or something. And then the person gets a free review if it makes sense. And reviewers prefer that. They don't want to sit there for 20, well, I don't know, maybe they want to sit there for 20 minutes and take a break. But anyway, so some people are on it. I've heard people be like, I left Photolucida with 22 appointments because I just hung out in the right place at the right time. So that's how we deal with no-show opportunities. This is a favorite topic. Okay. You all have to promise if I tell you these things, you cannot do this stuff. And you might be surprised, like you would be like, would anyone really do that? And the answer is yes. Yes, people do these things. So some people just kind of corner the reviewers. We've had this happen like in the public bathroom or in an elevator, and they're like, can you look at my work or this or that? And the reviewer's like, oh, I'm on the way to lunch. We've had a situation where someone somehow bribed a housekeeping staff member at the Benson to put stuff in one of the reviewers' rooms. I mean, the tagline is they will remember you, but probably not fondly. Like it's just bad manners to kind of, the reviewers are giving a lot on a daily basis with their formal appointments. And so it depends on the reviewer if they have the extra energy to be giving extra time outside of their scheduled appointments to people. We've had people who aren't registered like fly to Portland and hang out in the lobby of the Benson and try to get reviews that way, which isn't fair, obviously, to the people who paid money to be there or the reviewers. But the number one rule is always wear your badge, because that shows that you're registered and you're supposed to be there. So our stance on approaching reviewers for outside meetings, this is a really big question for photographers. How do I do this? So what Photolucida's policy is, okay, we have some reviewers that are like, I'm giving my time, I'm done, I don't have any extra energy. Some reviewers are like, I'm here to look at work 24 hours a day, so bring it on. I'll just sit in this corner for 4 hours and bring it on. So basically what we tell photographers is, have one of your cards or leave behinds, have a note, maybe just go up to them and just be like, you know, hi, Bill, I'm so sorry I didn't get you as one of my appointments. Can I give you my card, and can you let me know if you have time to spend with me? You can text me. And usually the reviewer at that point will be like, okay, thank you, I'll take it. Or they might say, hey, I have time in 20 minutes. Let's go in this corner and I'll look at your work. So kind of put the ball in the court of the reviewer and just, respect where they are at that moment with their time. Here's just a note that I want to point out, because there is so much value in relationship building with your peers. I just don't want to leave that out. Like usually it's about reviewers, but really what's so cool at Photolucida is to see people like, oh, you're I've, like everyone's been following each other's work for so long, and now they get to meet in person outside of social media, and they get to share work. And a lot of times at the end of 4 days, people feel like they've been at camp. You get that kind of camp feeling, and you've made a lot of new friends, and you've shared work and you've bonded. So it is just a great resource to develop. I just want to point that out. It's very powerful, and so someone you met might be like, hey, here's a call for entries. I thought of you. So you're all learning about each other's work, you're building relationships, and then down the line. Anyway, so there's that. So after the reviews event, go home and rest for 3 days, send out, a thank you card to the reviewers, either email or in the mail. Anyway, that's after the reviews event. So, being on someone's radar is a positive way to start. Okay, let's jump into preparation for online reviews. Pretty much 2/3 of it is similar to what you do to prepare for a in-person reviews event. Okay, so pretty much, as we're all aware, all these organizations had to pivot when the pandemic started. There's pros and cons. Pros provided the pros have provided increased opportunities to connect with the international community, less expensive to produce, less expensive to attend because there's no travel costs. Usually they're 30 minutes instead of 20. It's not really an event, like you get things done, but it's kind of an apples and oranges thing. It's, more of a series of online meetings. Cons, there's no extracurricular activities, no sleepaway camp environment, no extra layers of relationship building. Yeah, so same guidelines as in-person reviews. Is the timing good for this? Preparing is a little bit different. So basically you're producing a PDF to use, both to show the reviewer. It gets given to the reviewers ahead of time, usually in a Dropbox folder, so they can become familiar with your work ahead of the time spent together. And it can also serve as your takeaway. Things you can do online that you can't do in person. You can do a share screen if you like. People sometimes, if it makes sense, will do a studio tour. Like if you do alt process work, you can kind of bring the reviewer into your workspace. So that's super cool. You just wrap up the meeting, you gauge the reviewer's interest, you send the PDF usually by email as your leave behind. You can utilize the chat function on Zoom. That's something that people do a lot. And then at the end, usually it's fun. There's like an informal chat time at the end where people can kind of connect, which is very nice. I just threw this in. This was an image from the portfolio walk by Jennifer McClure. It was kind of a decompression image. I'm sorry I threw a lot of rapid fire information at you. I know it's a lot to absorb. So everyone could kind of decompress. I'm obviously not going to read these, but one thing that we're really good at Photolucida is we track the participant stories. So these are both reviewers and photographers that have met at Photolucida, and then usually X amount of months down the line, opportunities happen. And they're really fun. They're really rewarding for us. And then that way we can kind of track what reviewers are giving good opportunities to. So if you go to our website, we have a bunch of participant stories too you can read. So that is that. And I am not sure how you all want to do a question and answer.
A lot of questions were answered in the chat, but does anyone have anything specifically about portfolio reviews that they would like answered right now? You can type it in the chat. Otherwise, we'll jump into critical mass and then we can do another Q&A about everything after. What's the preference?
Go for it. Sounds good.
Okay. So I will share my screen in a second here. Looks like everyone got good feedback though from you, Laura, so that's great. Okay. Share. So hello everybody. My name is Audra Osborne. I've been the program manager at Critical Mass, or at Photolucida for Critical Mass since 2017. This coming year will be my 5th Critical Mass, so please let me know if you have any questions along the way. I'll answer them after, or if I see them during, I can answer them too. I definitely probably missed some stuff in this little slideshow presentation. I was trying to keep it kind of short and simple. I know a lot of people get confused about like what critical mass is compared to the reviews. So I just tried to hopefully break that down a little bit for you. So what is critical mass? Critical mass began as a way to help photographers get their work into the conversation outside of in-person portfolio reviews, which can be cost prohibitive to some. We wanted a way to create an online platform that would make it easier and more efficient for photographers to promote their work to a wide selection of professionals in the field. This will be our 18th year of running this programming, connecting emerging photographers to industry professionals. And we do really see this as an in-between for photographers who are ready to get their work out into the world, but not ready to commit to the in-person reviews. Like they're beyond just the single call for entry opportunities, but maybe aren't ready to quite commit to that expense and time commitment of an in-person. So Critical Mass is a 2-part program. Photographers submit a 10-image portfolio from a single series. All entries go through a round of pre-screening, which is juried by 10 industry professionals, give or take. This process narrows the entries down to 200 finalists, and after a second fee, these photographers then have their work reviewed and voted on by a full panel of 200 jurors. It's an unprecedented way to get your work in front of the right people, as there are no other online programs like this. So this is our pre-screening jury from 2020. So it'll be different this year, but we just kind of wanted to give you an idea of the type of individuals that are on this pre-screening jury. They look through and vote on every single entry that's submitted. So that is between 600 and 900 portfolios, depending on the year. It's a lot of work that they look at. But they do genuinely love the opportunity to discover new artists for their programming, see new trends happening in photography, and catch up with established photographers' new projects. Each pre-screening jury member is a representative of an important organization in the fine art photo world, and even if your work does not wind up in the finalist group, it's been seen by these movers and shakers. So I realize that this is unreadable. This is the list of jurors from Critical Mass 2020, broken down by category. You can say, 200 jurors all you want, but like seeing it like this in this list form really kind of brings home how many people that is. They are all attached to an organization that is seeking new work for their own programming or are active independent curators. Organizations on this list include Wired, Griffin Museum of Photography, Radius Books, Float Magazine, High Museum of Art, Center, HuffPost, and SF Camerawork, to name just a couple. Although the primary intent of Critical Mass is exposure to industry professionals, which is a benefit to everyone who enters, we do include many awards each year. The top 50 has become a sought after title in the fine art photography world, which is what is shown here. This is the 2020 top 50, and it's on our website permanently. Each year the top 50 is announced and the portfolios are added to our website. It's a title worthy of adding to your CVs and mentioning in your bios. Yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of history here. So it's a really great way to go back and see what was catching jurors' eyes a decade ago, as opposed to right now. Some other awards that we are excited about and offer mostly on a yearly basis. The Rauschenberg Residency is a creative center that welcomes artists of all disciplines from around the world to live, work, and create. The residency is located on Robert Rauschenberg's former property on Captiva Island in Florida, where he lived and worked for nearly 4 decades. The facility includes the 8,000 square foot studio Rauschenberg built in 1992 and a collection of historic homes and studio spaces. One photographer from the finalist list is selected for a 4-week residency each year. And that's from the full 200 finalists, not just the top 50. And that's the same for this award, the Blue Sky solo show. Blue Sky Gallery was opened in Portland, Oregon by 5 young photographers in 1975. Portland's historic, today in the 3,700 square foot facility in Portland's historic DeSoto building, Blue Sky presents 20 to 25 exhibitions annually, maintains a public research library, showcases regional photographers in an annual juried archive of original works in its Pacific Northwest photography viewing drawers, which Laura has juried before, and offers regular artist talks and programs, which are all free to the public. One photographer is selected from the finalists each year for a solo show at Blue Sky during Portland Photo Month in April, although that's been changed this year with the pandemic. But the next award I want to talk about is the Michael Reichman Project Grant. Starting in 2019, each year 3 to 5 photographers are selected to receive $1,000 cash project grants. This award was made possible by a generous endowment gifted to Photolucida by the Luminous Endowment for Photographers, an organization created by the late Michael Reichman in 2007 to foster current and anticipated photography projects. We are super excited to be able to continue Michael's legacy by providing this opportunity to emerging photographers through the Critical Mass program. We do share updates about all the selected artists for this on social media and on our blog, so make sure to check that out. A couple other awards that we do regularly. We have the Print Collecting Initiative, which is something that Laura and I thought up in 2017 as almost as a thank you to all of the finalists and jurors who submit and participate in our programming. For this, we work with past Critical Mass Award winners to produce limited edition fine art prints, which we send out in the mail. And we've been super lucky to be able to work with Hanemule Papers and Pro Photo Supply here in Portland to produce these. They've been sponsors of the program since day one, which has been amazing. So for these other two ones, these are new as of last year. During the pandemic, we had to get a little creative with awards since there were so many unknowns in terms of like physical locations and events. So we partnered with Fraction Magazine to feature 10 artists from the 200 finalists in a dedicated Critical Mass issue. That went live last December. And we also started a new book award that gifts up to 25 finalists with a recently published photo book. Last year we sent out Odette England's Keeper of the Hearth, published by Schilt Publishing. And this year we plan to send Running, Falling, Flying, Floating, Crawling by St. Lucie Books to 25 photographers as well, which is just kind of like a fun little treat. So some past awards that we've done. The Top 50 exhibition is currently listed as a past award because we can't say with certainty when we'll be able to make it happen again due to the pandemic. But it will probably make a comeback at some point as things allow. The Top 50 show is a group show exhibiting one image from each of the 50 artists selected by a curator. In the past, it's been curated by Andy Adams, Darius Himes, Todd Heido, Rebecca Senf, David Rosenberg, Bill Hunt, Allison Nordstrom, Alexa Becker, and Elizabeth Avedon. So some pretty big names. It's also been shown across the country and nationally as well in galleries such as the Photographic Center Northwest in Seattle, New Space Center for Photography in Portland, Rayco, and Cordon Potts Gallery in San Francisco, Southeast Center for Photography in South Carolina, Houston Center for Photography in Texas, Guadafoto in Guatemala, sorry, Month of Photography, Denver in Colorado, Edition 1 Gallery in Santa Fe, as well as projected at festivals Cortona on the Move in Italy and Festival de la Luz in Argentina. The 2019 Top 50 show will actually be shown this coming summer at Center for Photographic Art in Carmel, California. We had to postpone it. It was scheduled for last summer, so we postponed it, and it will be happening this summer. So look out for that. And when we began offering awards way back when, it started with just one, the Monograph Book Award. Over the years, we published 15 monographs from work submitted to Critical Mass. Photographers include Joni Sternbach, Priya Kambli, Amy Friend, Amy Stein, and Jeff Rich, just to name a few. We wanted to offer more opportunities to more than one individual each year, so we did end up phasing this award out. The last book published was The Shepherd's Daughter by Claire Benson, and that was published in 2017. A fun little tidbit, though, for years, we also sent these books out to 30 plus Oregon public libraries, art school libraries, community college libraries, regular college libraries, and high school libraries to become part of their collections. And we called that the library program. And then we also like to mix things up a little bit every now and then and add new one-off awards in collaboration with other organizations. When we can. In 2019, we teamed up with GUP, an international photography magazine that's published quarterly on a Critical Mass feature. they selected 8 photographers to be published in issue number 63, and that's available on our website. We've also partnered with Campo in Uruguay to award an artist residency in 2018, among other awards. So now I want to just get into kind of the nuts and bolts of how to actually best prepare your entry for critical mass. One neat thing about this program is that you can fill out the registration form and submit your work, but you're able to log in and edit your entry until the deadline. This makes it really easy to be like 100% confident of your entry when the deadline hits, because you can show your entry to someone else, make edits if you need to, and just like visualize what the jurors are going to see. So on the left is what your entry will look like once it's complete and what the jurors will see when they land on your entry page. Images are presented in a thumbnail grid. The juror will select the first image to open the full page slideshow, which is shown on the right, and click through all 10 photos. They can either read the statement before or after viewing the images by clicking the little arrow in the blue box on the left there. And your statement will pop down like so. It will also show your website, which is linkable, and an easy way for the juror to look at your website, look at more of your work if they're interested and want to have a better understanding of the work that you make. But while we're here on this artist statement, let's talk about the importance of a concise artist statement. Jurors have to absorb a lot of information while they're jurying. Writing a long and kind of convoluted artist statement can make things more difficult on them. You want to make your point clear, and ideally in the first couple sentences, use plain language as much as possible and keep it fairly short. They want to know what your project is about, but if they have to work too hard to figure it out, they might end up skimming it or skipping it. For editing and sequencing, it's also a super important part of your submission. You want to engage the juror with a strong image right off the bat. So your first image should be really strong. The sequence should have a nice visual flow and tell a story on its own without having to completely rely on the statement. My personal favorite way to do this is to make tiny prints and move them around until something sparks. Another way to achieve this is to drag and drop images around an Adobe Bridge. That's a really easy tool to use. I've also found that it's super helpful to have a third party look over your entry to point out anything that doesn't feel right, a third or fourth or fifth. When it's your own work, it's really easy to assume the viewer will understand what you're trying to say because you're really close to the material. So don't be afraid to ask a friend, a family member, or colleague that you trust to give you honest feedback. And I just wanted to kind of wrap it up here with a couple of success stories that came to us very recently, just in the last couple of weeks, but there's an entire page on our website dedicated to the stories if you want to check it out. So first we have Daniela Rivera Antera. She was recently published on the cover of the Washington Post, thanks to a juror from Critical Mass, Chloe Coleman, seeing her work and reaching out to her in Critical Mass. Jennifer Garza-Kewen, who was one of our Rauschenberg Residency Award winners, met and worked with Odette England at the residency, and the work that they created collaboratively is being published in a book by Radius Books, who is also a juror for Critical Mass. And Debbie Arlook, she was Paula Tognorelli from Griffin Museum of Photography reached out to her to invite her to exhibit 5 images at the gallery, which are shown there on the left. So those are just a few that we received just very recently. This is the whole point of Critical Mass, are these little, moments where the jurors are reaching out to photographers because they made a connection with their work through the programming. And one really cool thing too that I didn't put in here, but the jurors, they vote on the work as they're going through it, and that's how the top 50 is selected. But they can save their votes, so they can save a PDF of all of their, like, organized by their votes. So all of the people that they really liked are at the top, and then the next round, and then they can print that out for future reference. So they're able to reference this information as well indefinitely, which is super cool. And just to wrap it up here, Critical Mass 2021 opens this month, which is crazy. So it opens on May 17th with early bird pricing. It's $50 until May 26th. It will remain open until June 11th, but the price does go up on the 26th. And one little insider tip, you can submit your work at the beginning during the early bird pricing, and because you can log in and edit your entry, it doesn't have to be finalized when you first enter. So you can register and enter in that early bird pricing period, and then go back and edit until the 11th, until you're ready for it to be submitted. So that is my personal suggestion for you. Yeah, so please let me know if you have any questions. I don't know if they were being answered. Oh, okay, there we go. I don't know if they were being answered as it was going on, but yeah. My presentation is done.
Nice work,
Thank you
Audra.
so much.
Oh, thanks.
Terrence had an interesting question about that I answered in there, and about photogram work and if that's well received. And so maybe, are all kinds of works well, open?
Yeah, we definitely accept any photo-based projects. It can be, photo collage or like anything that's based in photo to some degree. Cameraless is definitely in there. There are a lot of really amazing cameraless projects that make it to the top 50 consistently. You just have to kind of, I think, make the call about whether or not your work translates well online. And that's the case for basically any project, but I think especially like alt process and cameraless techniques. I mean, Marcy Palmer, I think she's even in here, but like her work is gorgeous and almost always makes it to the top 200. And it just depends on how it translates, I think.
There was an earlier question too about bringing original prints and how would you to the review. And how do you recommend managing that when you have one of a kind, alt process prints?
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for that, Laura? It is a little tricky. I mean, I know we've had people that don't let the reviewers handle them unless they're wearing gloves, and they'll flip through them for the reviewer if they're really worried about it. Or you can make like replications, like digital replications, and just bring one that's like the final piece as like an example, because it's quick in the review room. When your time is up, you have to pack everything up really quick and leave your table, and that can be tricky with kind of precious objects. So
that's a great idea. I mean, in my experience, I found it's good to have a set of portfolio prints that you're okay with getting a little banged up.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of bound to happen after 4 days of 18 reviews plus, peers looking at your work and the roving reviews, and you're pulling out your prints on a coffee table in the lobby. And yeah, it's definitely a good idea to not be too attached to the prints that you're bringing to a review.
And like you said, you only have 20 minutes. And so, I think early on there was a really great question about, and I know that Laura covered it too in her presentation, but maybe we could just revisit that question about, so what's it like when a review starts? You're on the clock for 20 minutes. It's a very strict timeline, right? And how would you recommend starting a review as an artist?
You're on mute, Laura.
Generally speaking, you come into the reviewing room. You usually introduce yourself to the reviewer as you're unpacking your prints, and they have their schedules in front of them, so they know who's showing up. So basically it's unpacking prints, introducing yourself, and then you kind of slip into your elevator speech. And then everyone's different. You can have the reviewer flip through, you can flip through it, you know, time it so that you can have an actual conversation. And then just be aware there's someone going around the room saying 5 minutes before your time is up. And then another skill to have is to kind of just have a wrap up, 3 or 4 minutes. And then you have to kind of pack up fairly quickly and rotate out.
Yeah, so I started at Photolucida as a volunteer in 2013 at the reviews event, and I worked the event for 3 years before then I took on this job. But as the review room manager, I would say that it awful as like a volunteer and to have to be like, you have to leave your table right now, like there's a photographer waiting right behind you, you know, so just don't be that person. It's really unfortunate to be having like this really amazing conversation with a reviewer and you have to cut it off, but that's how these are, and you wouldn't want to be that one that's like standing behind the table with your review being cut into. So that's like something like good manners that Laura was talking about before.
Practicing that graceful exit of,
yeah,
it's so great to talk to you. Here's my leave behind card.
Especially hard when the reviewer is also.
I'd love to stay in touch via email or something.
Yeah.
Right? And then
Yeah,
wait for the nod. And if they're like, no, thanks, you move on.
Right. Yeah. So just keeping in mind that like you're not the only photographer there, and even if you are having a really amazing review, that you know you're eating another photographer's time if you're hanging on to that table for longer than your 20 minutes. So
any other like really practical tips, like comfortable shoes, breathable fabrics, umbrellas, because it's rain in Portland, even in April, especially in April?
Yeah, sometimes we luck out with good weather that weekend, but
traveling with a portfolio, keeping it under 16 by 20 seems to be a really great idea.
Yeah, something that you can carry quickly. Like I've definitely seen people with like rolled up prints that are huge, and it's just, you know, they end up like laying all their prints out on the floor while people are like trying to walk by them really quickly to roll them up again. And just thinking about how like it's like speed dating, so you just have to be able to like pack up and leave really quickly, and especially if you have a back-to-back appointment, to be able to pack up in an organized way and then go to your next appointment so that your portfolio isn't a mess when you arrive to that meeting.
You talked about price sheets too. Tell us more about that. What do photographers do?
Did we? Price sheets?
Yeah, Laura, it was in your PDF of things to include a price sheet for work. Am I remembering?
Oh, for online reviews? Yeah, it's general information along with your artist statement, you know, your imagery, and then if you want to put any print information or the pricing of your work. And then, you know, any links. I'm sorry, I had to kind of hurry through the online section I was rambling on earlier. Any links to shows that you were in are also good for PDFs to pass those on as part of your information as well.
Fabulous. Well, you have so many words of appreciation and so many thank yous. Hopefully, I know Christina's really good about downloading the chat and sharing it with you later. But since we have an audience here of 72 people still, are there any crazy questions for Laura and Audra that, you know, maybe you're afraid to ask? And no such thing as a crazy question here.
Yeah, please ask. Got 9 minutes left.
I mean, I can continue asking crazy questions.
We like crazy.
You know, there was a question earlier, I hate to put you on the spot, about how some of the portfolio reviews are handling COVID. And I know we don't have a crystal ball, but maybe you could just kind of mention a little bit about how some of the reviews seem to be pivoting, or what Photolucida is thinking about for the future.
I think no one knows. Photolucida takes 8 months to organize, so you have to make a commitment and make a big deposit to the venue before starting to organize. So the first thing you have to do is get the reviewers to commit.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure about traveling,
Mhm.
you can't get, like, no one can say in a year this is what it's going to look like. So to my knowledge, everything is still online, except I did see a notice come out of PhotoFest's offices saying they're planning on doing PhotoFest the fall of 2022.
Photofest is in Houston, Texas, for people that don't know.
Texas.
And it's every 2 years.
Every 2 years. And usually they're in the spring. So they must, I think they're trying to kind of make up some stuff. I don't know. So that's apparently when they felt confident enough that people would be willing to travel again, et cetera.
Well, in the meantime, what's really exciting, and Terrence had a question about traveling with your portfolio. Yes, I've seen people carry it on. If you can, that would be preferred. And that's one reason not to bring a giant portfolio, because you don't want it to get lost. So personally, I would do carry on. But you know, this is just really good timing to kind of isolate away and work on your gorgeous prints and get ready for the world to reopen and reemerge. And we'll get to see everybody's brand new projects, which is super exciting. So I think there'll be a lot of new opportunities when we can see each other in person again. Oh, Jeff has a really good practical crazy question. What if someone is not leaving and you're the next appointment? Well, guess what? That's what the rover helper is for, right?
Yeah, so we do have, yeah, like my old job would be to kindly ask that person to leave. But if, you know, like at the first like 3 minutes when people come into the room, it's chaos, and then it's 15 minutes of calm, and then it's another 3 minutes of chaos. So there's some time in between that the helpers might not notice what's happening. Best case would be to kind of stand like a foot or two away from the table and just be like,
and breathe.
Like, I'm ready. Because I mean, you don't want to be rude to the reviewer, but also the reviewer sometimes doesn't actually want to continue that. Like, they also feel like the impetus of, like, they can see there's someone waiting and they know that they're not supposed to be with this person anymore. It's just, yeah, sometimes it's really hard to break those conversations. So
it's such a well-oiled machine. I wouldn't worry too much about it, because Jeff, they've been doing this for so long, and I'm just so amazed at how well everything is orchestrated every time I see it happen.
Thanks. Yeah.
But there's plenty of staff standing by to help.
Yeah, if one of the volunteers in the room, there's usually like 5 people volunteering in the room at every session.
That's not to say that I've seen this happen at every type of review. Some of the international reviews I've been to are a little more loose.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to get aggressive when it's your turn.
Yeah, I would say just like at that point, I usually like go over and put my hand on the table and look that person in the eye and be like, there is a photographer waiting.
I'm your 230. Hi, I'm your 230. It's 2:35.
So yeah. I would say best practice is either to like stand with your portfolio ready to take that table as soon as it's up, within eyesight of them, or just go find one of the volunteers immediately and be like, my table's still occupied, and we'll take care of it.
Hey, can we bug Adam Chin? Adam Chin is one of your top 50. And he's a friend of Camerawork. And I just would love to put him on the spot, Adam. What was your experience like with critical mass?
I would honestly say I am still learning, you know, about what it means to be one of the top 50. You know, I knew virtually nothing about this organization until a friend poked me and said, hey, you should enter this thing this year. And so I said, okay, and I did. And I actually didn't even organize my portfolio. I didn't realize it was supposed to be like one sequence of images. So I put in stuff from like a second image, but because I didn't know. But, you know, I was lucky with the project that there was a story to tell. And so the story came out very quickly and succinctly. So I think that helped a lot. In terms of, you know, what does it mean? I was tickled pink, honored. Thank you. But like I said, I'm still learning about, you know, what will happen down the road, you know, because of this. But it certainly, I mean, it certainly felt good. So that's my answer.
Thanks, Adam, for jumping in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And congratulations to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there was a question, you know, we will for sure, there was a question about if you wanted to volunteer, how does that work?
Yeah, I would say that we keep a list kind of rolling from previous years and people who are interested now. So if you do want to volunteer, you can send us an email and we'll add you to that list. We have a volunteer coordinator that works with us like the month or two leading up to the event, and she kind of manages the schedules and everything. And so you can volunteer as many shifts as you'd like. Like you could be in the review room if you want a couple times. You can be in the roving ballroom. You can work the portfolio walk event at the art museum. You know, there's a lot of little opportunities to be involved, and we would appreciate it. So if you are interested.
Awesome. Well, I think Christina will throw in the email, or, you know, we'll definitely put it on our website after this talk. This talk is being recorded and will be posted. Thank you so much to Audra and Laura. And I'm going to ask Christina to announce what's happening next, because we have some really cool stuff happening at Camerawork this month. We have a whole new roster of activities.
Yeah. First off, I just wanted to say a big thank you, Laura and Audra. This was
Thank you.
so wonderful. And there's just so much information that you guys shared with us tonight. I was taking notes, and as Erica mentioned, the presentation was recorded. It will be on our website about next week this time, so you guys can review it and watch it as many times as you like. So thank you guys. This was really informative and really helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. So upcoming at Camerawork, I saw Erica dropped in some links about upcoming programming that we have. So we're trying to offer talks and events every Tuesday around 6 o'clock. So you can always expect a talk at Camerawork on a Tuesday evening. Next week, we're going to be doing our SF Camerawork Fast Forward event, which is where we reunite with photographers who've exhibited at Camerawork in the past. And so next Tuesday, Sine Woods, who was the 2016 BAM Award recipient, is going to be with us. And she's going to be talking about the exhibition that she had at Camerawork in 2016, and also how her work has developed since then. And she is currently represented by Casemore Kirkby. And so Julie Casemore of Casemore Kirkby will also be with us that evening to ask her questions and be in dialogue. And then later this month, we also have our members critiques, which I mentioned are a really wonderful way to practice for online portfolio reviews. If you are curious as to what they're like, please sign up and attend your first one, and then maybe consider showing in a later month. We are full to show in both May and June, but you can still register to attend and see what other members are presenting at the reviews. And then we do have an upcoming critique in July. It's going to be July 20th with Sarah Christensen, and that's going to be posted this week. So please stay tuned for that event. And then we have one more talk in May. May is just jam-packed full with events, which is with artist Rhea Lynn de Guzman, who's a local Bay Area photographer and artist. She's also the curator of Wonder Woman, which is an exhibition featuring Bay Area women of color. And she's curated that show for Camerawork for the past 2 years. So she's also going to be talking about her experience curating at that show. So please tune in for that talk. She'll be speaking with Shirin Makaremi, who is on our programming committee and also the director of Incline Gallery in the Mission District of San Francisco. So lots of things that are upcoming on the calendar. Please register, please attend, and tune in on Tuesdays with us. So
Great.
I think that's it for the evening. Thank you all so very much for being here. It's always such a pleasure to see everyone on screen and to interact with everyone in the chat. You guys were so talkative and had so many really good questions for everyone. So thank you guys so very much. Yeah, and thank you again.
Thank you
Laura
to our friends at
and
Photolucida.
Audra.
Please say hello to our friends in Portland. Have a great night, everybody. See you next Tuesday.
Thank you guys.